right now. There we go. So what's going on, YouTube? This is Unger to the Max here. And we are a little less than 24 hours away from NFL football kicking off as the Houston Texans travel to Arrowhead Stadium to take on the reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl 54 champion, Kansas City Chiefs. You like how I combined Bruce Buffer, the announcer of the UFC, Octagon, with the NFL? You like that? You see what I did there? Anyway, so Houston and Kansas City. Yes, that is our opening day matchup. But they know each other already because they played each other twice last season. Once was in week 6 of the regular season, where Houston played keep away, and the Texans thus were able to beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. And then they met up again in the 2019. Excuse me, I'm a little bit under the weather today. But that's not going to stop me from recording this video. No way. Excuse me, I'm a little bit. Where was I? Oh, yeah. And then these two teams met up again in the 2019 AFC divisional round, where Houston was able to carry early momentum to a 24-0 lead. But then Bill O'Brien did what Bill O'Brien typically does, and that's fuck up. Because all that momentum that he and the Houston Texans had just vanished into thin air. It was like, what's a good analogy? It was like magic. First it was there, then it wasn't. Like, I'm going to make this carrot disappear. Poof, it's gone. And you just don't know how. Because Kansas City was able to score 7 unanswered touchdowns to the point where Arrowhead Stadium just ran out of touchdown fireworks. And Kansas City went on to win that game like 51-31, if I remember correctly. So, like I said, these two teams know each other. But let's talk about some of the other games that are happening on Sunday and the challenges that they're presenting. For example, let's start off with the Las Vegas Raiders at the Carolina Panthers. All right? Let's start off with that. Cool? Cool. So, first of all, the Raiders are going to be making their debut as the Las Vegas Raiders. Kind of interesting that they're not starting the season at home. Their home opener is actually week 2 on Monday Night Football against Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. Too bad the Raiders aren't able to host any fans in this brand new Allegiant Stadium. Thanks, coronavirus. But speaking of coronavirus, no preseason games were played. For example, the Cleveland Browns for their preseason games were supposed to play, let me see if I can remember, Green Bay, Chicago, Minnesota, and I believe the last one was Tampa Bay, if I remember correctly. It was at Green Bay, at Minnesota, home against Chicago, home against Tampa Bay. I believe that was the order. Anyway, back to the Raiders and Panthers. So the Panthers have a different quarterback from last season because they brought in New Orleans Saints backup quarterback Teddy Bridgewater to be the starting quarterback. And then for their new head coach, they brought in Matt Rule, who was the head coach of the Baylor Bears last season. But the Panthers didn't stop there, because next they brought in Joe Brady as to be their offensive coordinator, who was leading that prolific LSU Tigers offense to a national championship last season. So how are the Raiders supposed to prepare for the Panthers? Like, should they watch film of Teddy Bridgewater when he was playing for the New Orleans Saints last season? Should they watch film of Baylor's offense? Should they watch film of LSU's offense? Like, they're a little bit left in the dark. Excuse me. Preseason games not only help teams determine who's going to make the 53-man roster and who's not, as well as who's going to be a starter and who's going to come off the bench, but it also gives your opponents film to watch to prepare for you in their week 1 game. Now, that could be like just a consequence, but it is what it is. But again, there is no preseason this season due to this pandemic caused by COVID-19. So the Raiders are going to be left in the dark. Okay, the Baltimore Ravens. They're hosting us, the Cleveland Browns. Be on the lookout. I'm talking with Engraven Bids, and we're trying to arrange when we can do our video collaboration. So be on the lookout for that. So Baltimore is essentially using the same offense that they had last season. So the Browns aren't going to be left in the dark. But the Ravens are, because Cleveland got rid of Freddie Kitchens, who was the head coach last season, and they got rid of their offensive coordinator. And the Browns hired Kevin Stefanski as the new head coach and Alex Van Pelt as the offensive coordinator. So Stefanski was the offensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings last season, and Alex Van Pelt, I believe, was the quarterbacks coach for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Browns still have Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham Jr., Nick Chubb, Jarvis Landry, Kareem Hunt. But we did bring in what's his name? Austin Hooper. But again, what film should the Ravens watch? Do they watch film of how Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, and the rest of the guys I mentioned before, how they played last season? Should they watch film of the Minnesota Vikings offense? Do they watch film of the Cincinnati Bengals offense? It's very challenging. And it's just one of those things that maybe you weren't thinking about going into the week 1 games. Maybe you were just thinking about, oh, yay, we have football. And we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Hey, there's another one. And that's a divisional showdown. Just like Browns at Ravens. But here's the thing with Tampa Bay. They have a new head coach in Bruce Arians. They brought in a new quarterback. Maybe you've heard of this guy. You know, he was a 6th-round draft pick from Michigan. Has won 6 Super Bowls. How many of those are legitimate, though? He is considered by many to be the greatest of all time. I don't share that sentiment. I think the greatest of all time is Drew Brees. But, of course, I am talking about Tom Brady. Yes, Tom Brady is no longer a New England Patriot. And we'll talk about them in a minute. Tom Brady is now a Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Oh, yeah, and this guy, Gronk, he's now a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Leonard Fournette, cut by the Jaguars, he's now a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. LaShawn McCoy, I'm pretty sure he's a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. So, how are the Saints supposed to prepare for the Buccaneers? Like, there's no film of, like, what Tom Brady does against an opponent as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Because, again, and I can't emphasize this enough, there is no preseason, or there are no preseason games. So there's no film to watch. So New Orleans, Baltimore, and the Raiders are going to their games essentially blind. There's countless other examples. For example, Pittsburgh. They're going on the road to take on the New York Giants. Well, the Giants brought in a new head coach, Joe Judge. He was the special teams coordinator for the New England Patriots last season, so that was an interesting choice. Jason Garrett is now the Giants offensive coordinator after he got his ass fired as the Dallas Cowboys head coach. So how are the Steelers supposed to prepare for the Giants? Do they watch Dallas Cowboys film since Jason Garrett is the offensive coordinator? And I mentioned that we would get to the New England Patriots. So here we go. They're opening the season at home against the Miami Dolphins. I believe. Let me double check on that. Hold on one second. Actually, let's just check. Hold on one second. I will share my screen with you in 1 minute. All right. So, yes, the Dolphins are at the Patriots. Okay? So, the Patriots no longer have Tom Brady as their I almost said head coach. No, excuse me. Tom Brady is no longer the Patriots starting quarterback. As I said, he is now in Tampa Bay. Instead, Cam Newton is the starting quarterback for New England. So how is Miami supposed to prepare for Cam Newton? Do they watch film of what he did when he was with the Panthers? Like, who knows what the Patriots offense is going to look like this season? Maybe they use more quarterback runs because they have a mobile quarterback and an athletic threat like a Cam Newton. Let's see. What other games? Already talked about the Raiders and the Panthers. Discussed Browns-Ravens. Discussed Buccaneers at Saints. That's pretty much it. Oh, and we talked about Steelers at Giants. Oh, Cincinnati. So, the Chargers are going into this game a little bit blind. A little bit. Not as much as the Raiders or the Steelers or the Saints, for example. But the Chargers are a little bit because Cincinnati used the number 1 overall pick to draft Joe Burrow. And so the Chargers don't know what Cincinnati's offense is going to look like. So again, it raises the question, should the Chargers watch what Cincinnati's offense did last season and then just watch film of how Joe Burrow played at LSU? That would be my suggestion for the Chargers. But it's just such an interesting question to think about. Like, for many of these teams, the Dolphins, I would even throw the Jaguars in because the Jaguars are hosting the Colts, and the Colts have a new quarterback, Phillip Rivers. So the Colts offense might look a little bit different. So Jacksonville is a little bit left in the dark. Let's see. The Bengals have the same situation with the Chargers because Tyrod Taylor is the starting quarterback for the Chargers now. So we don't know what that Chargers offense is going to look like. With the 49ers, they are still going against Kyler Murray, and the same style of offense that Arizona ran last season, but the Cardinals added a new toy to go alongside Larry Fitzgerald. And of course, that's DeAndre Hopkins, because the Houston Texans are just idiots. They traded David Johnson, who is not a very good running back, they acquired David Johnson from the Cardinals. There we go. In exchange for DeAndre Hopkins. I know there were draft picks involved, but essentially they were the two moving pieces. So I don't know what the Texans are thinking. Bill O'Brien's just a freaking idiot. But then again, we already knew that. There we go. So yeah. And then in week 2, but for week 2, all these teams, so like the Bengals are going to have an idea of what the Browns offense looks like. The Browns are going to have an idea of what the Bengals offense looks like. Both the Buccaneers, the Buccaneers will have an idea of what the Panthers offense looks like. The Panthers will have an idea of what the Buccaneers offense looks like. The Vikings will have an idea of what the Colts offense looks like. The Bears will have an idea of what the the Bears will have an idea of what the Giants offense looks like. The Seahawks will have an idea of what the Patriots offense looks like, and so on and so forth. So it's just something that's very interesting to me, and maybe something you didn't think about necessarily. So that's going to do it for this video. Hope you found it informative, and I hope you really enjoyed watching it. If you did, punch that like button like a UFC fighter, and punch that subscribe button. Until next time, this is Unger to the Max, signing off.